welcome to another episode of Working the Web to Win. Today is our special Christmas Eve episode. And you'll notice we have our little antlers on top of the microphone, mainly because our producer refused to wear them a second time. I don't know why. We got such a good response on the first time we had him on here with that.
And of course, since this is the Christmas Eve special, we're actually not in studio. We're somewhere else. So
you can call in, but chances are we're not going to answer.
We're not going to probably answer. So. But since we still want you to be able to find all the stuff, you can still find us on workingthewebtowin.com. Of course, when you go there, you'll find links to everything. Don't forget to look at the notes page, because all the stuff that we're talking about will be in the notes page.
Right, and also we've got some sponsors who, by the way, have some really good specials for the holiday, both via eSigs and also Tub King.
Yeah.
If you're interested in learning more, just click on their little banner on the Working the Web to Win page, and it'll take you right to their site. Check it out.
As a matter of fact, in the new year, you'll probably get to see both of them on the air and on the TV show.
Because, I mean, this is coming on the Christmas Eve, so it's not too late to
buy something for somebody.
That's right, take advantage of their specials. Speaking of special, what we're going to talk about today is kind of a retrospective of some of our favorite shows and some of the viewers' favorite shows from the past year. You were doing the stats. I was just looking at the ones that more or less grabbed my attention. But tell them about some of the top shows that we had during 2013.
One of the interesting things that I found when I went through and looked at all the shows, I mean, some of it was as our audience grows, the earlier shows were not as big as the later shows. Because, again, we've been just steadily growing month after month. Mm-hmm. So, but you haven't said what I did is I looked at month by month which was the best shows and which, within that monthly period. So I went back to January. And I looked at, we had 4 big shows in January. So we had Send in the Clones, It Takes a Team, 21st Century Email, and the Future of Web Video. And by far, that month, the Future of Web Video was the one who won. But that whole month was really, really strong. So that was sort of an amazing thing. The one I thought was really going to take off for that month was, 21st Century Email. But it came in 4th. So it just goes to show you, I don't know what the heck I'm thinking about. But later on, when you look at the blogs that go with a lot of these, and I'll go through the countdown and the blog later on in the show, you'll see that sometimes the blogs really took off, but the radio show didn't have the same kind of coverage for some reason. So,
well, let's talk about a few of the actual episodes that we had, because that's what I really want to cover. And obviously, one of the ones that was very important to a lot of people was the hummingbird.
Right.
Because that was, that's just come up a couple of months ago where Google did a massive change of their algorithm. It really, again, shook the pillars of the industry, because whenever they do an update, it kind of shakes everybody out of the woodwork. Some worse than others, and particularly since literally this was the biggest single update that they've done in 12 years. So I mean, you're almost going back to the beginning, since they did an update that was this massive and this overpowering. Because what they've been doing with most of their updates has obviously been to shake out a lot of the people that are trying to game the system. And as we pointed out in that episode, the spiders are getting a lot smarter now.
And one of the things that's worth noting is that blog for that month did really, really well also. But even though it's only been out 3 months, because that show was done in October, that's the 5th most read blog that we've had. So even though it's only been out 3 months, it's been being read like it's gone out of style. I know that there are a lot of other ones, and I'm going to just sort of go through my countdown on the blogs.
Sure.
Because it's really easy to compare the blogs to the shows. So the 10th most read blog was the internet marketing for this year. Mm-hmm. So the December show, it's been read so much already that it's already in the top 10. So that's pretty interesting. But the number 9 was, can Google cure death? Which I thought was not going to go anywhere. I mean, I'm like, people going to really care about this? Well, obviously a lot of people really do care about it.
Well, hey, if it's important to billionaires, like they say, when a billionaire speaks, you probably should listen. And that's who is behind the whole effort to find not only cure to death, but as we pointed out during our show and during the blog, obviously a lot of the research that they're going to have to conduct with their billions of dollars is going to have a direct impact on a lot of the quality of life, a lot of the health issues, even cancer, because of the fact that a lot of what they would have to do in order to beat the big D would be to find a way to keep the body's own, or at least the cell's own self-destruct mechanism for kicking in.
And this is what's neat. Even though this is a November show, so in November had several shows that were pretty big. Let me bring them up here real quick. Google Solve Death came in at number 4 for that month. which is really amazing because even though it came in at number 4, it's number 9 in our top 10 reads for the year in the blog, and that's only for 2 months. So by this time next year, that article will probably have 1,000 reads or 2,000 reads.
Well, look at it this way. I mean, we cover a lot of things that are very important to everybody, but everybody's concerned with dying. Because that's one thing I always say, about being born on this planet. Nobody gets out alive.
Right. Well, the other thing is, again, if Google's talking about it, people are going to pay attention.
Yeah, and they're putting a lot of press out there. I noticed a lot of articles that were in Time magazine where we found out about it. So it's something that definitely has hit a hot button. But we've had a lot of other hot button episodes too.
Yeah, and again, the Google, it was very well written. It had a lot of really cool graphics on it, so we'll put some screenshots up there for you. And it just really got a lot of play. The number 8 one was a Chinese hack attack. And again, the Chinese attacking was going on for about a 6-month period. It was in the news.
Right, everybody's seen it
for about a month.
Now it's the Iranians that are attacking all the banks. But basically, when we put this episode out, there was a saying in Washington that if the Chinese weren't hacking you, the chances are you didn't matter anyway.
Right, you weren't important. So, and again, when you look at the stats, that was number 8 in all-time reads, but it was number 3 for that month. And that month had some pretty strong shows that were really taking off.
Well, along the same vein was one of the other hacking profiles we put out recently, which was the FBI shutting down Silk Road.
Right.
Which was, again, another major player in online underworld marketing. I mean, this was literally a site where you could go and say, hey, I want to buy some drugs, I want to get some guns. And it was right there for everybody to see. In fact, what really blew my mind was the fact that it took the FBI 2 years to shut the sucker down.
Yeah, and the article that we wrote, Bringing Down the Bitcoin Bandits, was, along this whole thing, it was talking about all those.
Well, that was what the episode was all about, was about them shutting down Silk Road.
Right. And
the reason we called it the Bitcoin Bandits was that's what the currency that they were using to make their ill-gotten gains.
And this is the thing. That was our best show ever. Just so you know. So the number of people that downloaded that show, downloaded in huge numbers. And I really thought that, people don't even know what Bitcoins are or any of that, but they were really interested in the crime story, because it was really sort of an interesting story. How they were getting away with it for like 2 years, and they could sell anything, literally anything.
But what I want to find out is this: I want to know whether the people that were actually hitting that, since that was our biggest, episode of all time, were they coming in to find out how these guys were shut down, or were they coming in to find out who's taking over for them? Or, I want to get my stuff.
Right, or they were going, I need to order some hashish or something. So
and we pointed out the fact that, as quickly as the FBI shut it down, of course, there were several different entities that stepped into that void.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the cockroaches. You step on one, there's a whole bunch of them behind the walls that you didn't notice before.
Well, it was one of those things that people really got sort of intrigued with the whole process, and it really took off. Before that, the number one, not the number one. In January of this year, we did a new show, and it covered a lot of different things. And it was one of my favorite shows that we did. It was called New Year, New Rules. And we talked a lot about cybercrime, because that was one of the biggest things that was happening. And again, you and I are both big on cybercrime. All of our computers have 3 or 4 levels of protection. And that obviously doesn't stop them, because we still get, beat up, on a regular basis. But the cyber issue is something that the general public at large continues to ignore. And that's a big problem. So we put a lot of emphasis on people trying to take care of that.
Well, one of the ones I liked in January, one of my favorites, and this is one that I've been preaching, in fact, we even have a video that talks about it, which I'll play in a few minutes, called Why Every Business Owner Needs Clones.
Yeah.
Because especially in today's busy world, most business owners can't get out of their own way. Nobody has created the 28-hour day yet. So in order to really manage your time, you can't buy more time, but you can use it much more effectively. So literally, if we could climb into a machine and create a clone, who wouldn't do it, right?
And video, obviously.
We call it virtual cloning, exactly. Because today you can literally take any product, any person, any process, and by videotaping it and streaming it onto YouTube, you can create a clone so that your clones can go out there and do the work for you, so you don't have to.
Sure.
And every time you put out a blog, a social post, or a video, and you mix those 3 of them together, who knows where somebody's going to pump into that.
Well,
so,
for example, when I do tutoring sessions, sometimes
Yeah.
when our clients, we have brand new clients, and we're trying to help them
Right.
learn how to use blogging or whatever. What I will do is I will just capture the video session while we're talking and everything, and then I post it up on YouTube, and then they can use it over and over and over again.
Right.
So once you create a copy of whatever it is you're doing, then it becomes a tool for you, and you virtually clone that process.
right.
It makes life a lot easier. Now, the interesting thing is, we had 2 shows on videos that month, and the future of video, Candid Camera for Everyone, was the #1 show for that month. And we talked about similar things, but we were talking about how easy it is that people could use video, because a lot of people think, well, I don't know how to do that. Well, you got a laptop, it's got video built in, you got a cell phone, it's got
Right.
video built in. There's no reason why you can't do these kinds of videos.
Should we show the home audience our
Yeah.
cloning machine? Because actually it's a little tongue-in-cheek video we did talking about that very thing. Cue it up here.
Anyone who has either looked at our business card or clicked onto the W Squared Media Group's website has wondered what our Get Squared motto is all about. Well, the easiest way I can explain the concept behind W Squared is to point out the fact that if you could clone yourself, then you'd be able to get more work done, generate more business.
Our cloning
We at
machine.
W Squares are pioneers in the field of viral video marketing. Allow me to demonstrate.
Sometimes people don't have any humor, you know. Then you get the monkey with the banana.
With video, you can redouble your efforts by speaking to a worldwide audience about your products and services. Cloning
I know, make 'em
allows you
stop,
to
right?
expose your exposure.
No, what it's doing is it's just showing you how that you can use the technology to.
Sure. Again,
Copy yourself.
if you go to our W Squared Media Group, you can see that video. It's
A whole lot of other ones too.
Yeah, and I also believe it's on the Working the Web to Win channel, so they can see those there. You know, after that one, I mean, one of the ones that I thought was really, really going to take off, especially on the radio show, was the 12 Secrets of Social Media Success. When I wrote it, it actually really took off right away in the blog. I mean, it was at the time when I did it, it had more reads in a month than any other of the blogs that we'd ever written. But it didn't do that well on the radio show for some reason. I didn't know why. But a lot of other people heard it, and actually we got a couple of gigs out of it. So it was a pretty good thing from that perspective.
Well, again, that's what's nice about our show. All right, all these clones, all these episodes are there. Once you create the content, it's online forever. And the more that you create, it's like putting together this little army.
Right. And this is the neat thing about the radio show and the blogs. Once they're created, if you do them right, you create them in a format that's somewhat evergreen, that is, that the principles never go away, they keep getting read. And some of these have been read many, many, many times. In other words, they weren't just read that month. They continue to be read now. So when I go into my Google Stats, I look at them, you can see that in the month of January, actually several people were reading articles from prior months. So that's really the cool part that most people don't get. If you write a good article, it will be read over and over and over again. And if you got a good video, it'll be used over and over again. And you don't have to recreate these things. They have their own life. Like, for example, for this week, we had people reading Chinese Hack Attack. We had people reading The End of Conventional Marketing, conventional advertising. And they also were reading, Is SEO Still Important in 2013, which was the #1 article that we have. So right now, this week, they were still reading those articles because they don't go away. They have long shelf life and great play.
Yeah, one of the other ones we talked about, in fact, we'll be kind of revisiting this thing shortly, is Next Tech,
Yeah.
where we talked about a lot of the new and improved technology that was coming out, like the quote-unquote iWatch, which, of course, has never really materialized, but it's formed its own little industry. Now you've got a number of clones out there. There's Pebble. Who else has?
Samsung
has basically an iPhone that you wear on your
Sony
wrist.
and Fujitsu have one. And also, supposedly, Apple's supposed to have one sometime in the first quarter or something like that.
And of course, we talked about Google Glass.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the articles that I picked up recently was some poor sop got thrown out of a restaurant for wearing Google Glass because they took
Actually,
took offense to the fact that he walked into the restaurant wearing it. And, and again, this isn't something where when it comes on, if they're running their video, you can see that the video
Right.
Plus, everybody has a smartphone, and you've got a video camera broken. I don't see anybody getting thrown out of a restaurant for carrying their
again,
smartphone.
you can take your smartphone and tape it to your glasses.
Yeah. Well, you can just take it, put it on top of the, put it on top of the table,
Right.
and be getting video. So I mean, for them to single out the Google glasses, kind of.
I don't know if you've ever seen them little spy cameras that you could.
Oh yeah.
You could strap one on your phone. They make actual sunglasses that have cameras built in them now and all that kind of stuff. So.
Of course, one of the other things we had, which was one of the things that our producer loves, is the little quadcopters out now with the cameras in them. They're pretty cool. In fact, you've got one of those, don't you? Mm-hmm. Have to bring it in here and test fly it for us sometime.
We could use it during the show.
Yeah.
Let's see, buzz the host.
Duck.
I'm not good at it.
Number 5 all time, of course, was the Hummingbird Hum, which was a big deal. But after that, LinkedIn was again ever popular amongst all the business people out there. That show went really well. It was number 2 on the radio show, and it was obviously number 4 all time for people who are LinkedIn people. And in Jacksonville, most of the people we know are on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually one of the best ways to give business, send out messages. I mean, we use it extensively for ourselves.
Speaking of tech, one of my favorite episodes was one of our recent ones called Building the Bionic Man.
Yeah.
Where you're talking about how now in fact, that's going to be what we're talking about a lot on Next Tech, or is the emergence of robotics.
Yeah.
It's actually over by Christmas Eve. Is there's actually in Miami,
right?
There was a Battle of the Bots,
right?
Yeah. And they actually had it was a DARPA-sponsored program with a $2 million prize, and we're going to actually revisit that in I think the 7th of January. We're going to talk about the Battle of the Bots.
Right.
Where we're actually going to have some of the people that are part of that particular competition. Where this is taking things way beyond what you're seeing in consumer electronics.
These robots can actually really walk and grab stuff and
drive a truck.
I
mean, basically they're meant for to be firefighters. They're going to be able
people
to send
replacement
them into
models.
Right, to send them into places where even firefighters would fear to tread,
right, and
to be used for rescue operations.
I heard that they were going to use them so that you could put it on a computer and then have to talk to all your LinkedIn friends. so you wouldn't have to do this social media posting and stuff. So I ordered one. I'm figuring it'll be here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Well, good. We can put 2 of them in here, and then we won't have to do the episode. I think we already had Nash put some robots in our place a couple of weeks ago.
He had some, again, Easter eggs. If you go look at the videos from a couple of weeks ago, you'll see those bots that were in here. One of my favorite ones, and again, this show did really, really well. And it did actually phenomenal in the blogger, in the blogging platform, and that's the end of conventional advertising as we know it. And again, I got a lot of play because we talked about all the changes that have happened with conventional advertising and how it's still going downhill, yet all the internet advertising is still taking off. Even things that people think were going to go away, like email and texting and all that kind of stuff, they're still like shooting straight up. But TV and radio and newspaper and magazines is like, going straight down.
Well, now that we're coming up on Christmas too, one of our episodes was called Getting Gamed. And it starts off, says, would you give your 8-year-old a credit card? Of course not. But that's in essence what's happened to many parents who allow their children to play free game apps online, only to discover the following month that they had been billed hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So that's something that's still ongoing. A lot of these free games, they've set them up so that when your kid's on there playing the app, it'll say, oh, click here for more points, and you don't realize that they're dinging you for real money.
And along those same lines, we had a radio show that was the public's unsatiable appetite for apps, and then also taking out the trash, because both of those shows were about how apps can easily abuse the user instead of the user using the apps. So
well, one of the things we point out online is there's this thing as a free lunch online, and even if you're getting a quote unquote free app, it could come with some little attachments there that you may not appreciate. They can have malware, they can have adware, they have spyware.
So they all have spyware, but we never want them to have malware. And again,
well, but I mean, it depends on what level of spyware. Maybe there's some spyware literally that is like a worm that will drill down into your computer to try to get your credit card information and everything else, because guess what? That's where you're keeping them, or your smartphone.
Well, those programs are running because, again, they all automatically want to update themselves. So if they can update themselves, they're paying attention to what you're doing and where you are, and they're going out and reaching out and touching at least their own server to do the updates. So that was a big deal. And again, people are vulnerable and they're not paying attention to it. If they have a tablet, they have a smartphone, and they don't have an antivirus, anti-malware program running, which they can get for free, which probably comes with spyware. But they can get it for free, they can run it on there. And again, today when you buy your antivirus, anti-malware software, many of them come with additional licenses to put on your phone and your tablet.
Yeah, and if you're interested in finding out more about protecting not only your computer but also your smartphone and your tablet, go back and read our April 9th blog called "Can You Keep Your Computer from Catching Cold?"
Right.
And we talk about a lot of the things that were out there and how you can defend your electronics, because that's where people they're not aware. They think, well, okay, I've got all these things on my laptop, but meanwhile they've got nothing to protect their smartphone. And the smartphone it's not a phone, it's a computer.
Right, it's a smart computer that just happens to be little. Yeah. The last two articles that I'm going to talk about real quick, and again, we're talking shows because our shows have an article always tied to them, because we do all the research, we gather the material, write the article, and then we do the show. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the evolution of internet advertising, and then we did a show called "The End of Conventional Advertising as we knew it to be." Mm-hmm. And that took it to another level when we were talking about the evolution. Now we're talking about the end of advertising as we know it. And if you don't think the end of advertising as we know it is real, all you got to do is watch TV. What do? The show is now about Twitter. The show's got built-in QR codes so you can use your smartphone to get stuff that the show is not given to you. Yeah, the same way with magazines. You're in the magazine, you're reading an article, and say, oh, that's a cool thing, I want to get one of those. There's a QR code so you can go and find out about the information that has to do with that item that you want. And that's what we're talking about. Not only the evolution, but the actual the changing of media as we knew it.
Oh, I mean, it's ever since the personal computer came out, it's never been the same. But what the internet done is put it on steroids.
Right.
And in fact, that's why so many people have so much trouble keeping up with technology, because there's just so much input, there's so many changes, there's so many new apps, so many new sites, so many new social networks.
So fast, it's not even funny.
It's impossible to keep up with it. We do this thing for a living, full time, and we can't possibly keep up with it.
And any one subject,
that's why we have clones.
Any one subject that you're jumping on, it doesn't matter which one it is, they're all going to take off very quickly on you. Mm-hmm. I know that when you look at magazines and TV and radio, all of them are morphing into some kind of electronic or digital format.
They have to.
PR.
It's the only thing that's going to save them.
Right. Press release is a good example. Press releases have been around for 300 years.
Yep.
And now they're digital press releases are the primary way they're done. News, in 2014, we know that news for the first time will be retrieved by people more on electronic devices than they are watching TV. Mm-hmm. Even though TV is sort of an electronic device. They won't be waiting for the 6 o'clock news or the 7 o'clock news in the morning. They'll actually go to their tablet or whatever, or their smartphone or their smart watch or whatever they got, and they'll be reading it there.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why we came up with one of our episodes called "The Borg in Your Boardroom."
Right.
Because you have to keep up with technology. If you can't keep up with technology, then bad things happen.
Right.
Either you lose position, you miss out on breaking stories that are important to you, or like you say, you get hacked.
Right. And the neat thing about this particular article when we wrote, I remember it was enjoyable to research the stuff and everything, but I didn't think it was going to go anywhere because, people really want to know about cyber implants and all that kind of stuff. And that one actually did extremely well on the radio show.
Well, sure, because again, everybody's looking for an edge, and technology is the sharp end of the spear when it comes to generating an advantage today. And what you're trying to do is you got to keep ahead of the other guys, because that's what we try to do even with our clients. Is we're always trying to keep 2-3 years ahead of the curve, because by the time you figure out what's hot, you've already missed the wave.
Yeah, and again, that's one of the advantages of us doing the research for the blogs and the radio show, that it really keeps us, leading edge. And that's why we were talking about content being king 3 years ago, where now they're just now talking about how content is king and so on. Our number one show for 2013, and that is as far as the blog goes, was is SEO still important in 2013? And that's because that's a big issue, because e-commerce is how you make money on the internet. And if people can't find you, the big problem though is SEO is a misnomer. There's no longer really search engine optimization, because when you were talking traditional search engine optimization, what you're talking about was what was on your website. Right.
Well, today,
On page. Stuff.
right, today, only 25% of what the bots look at,
If that.
right, is on site. The rest of it is off site.
Right.
You know, your blogs, your social nets, your videos,
podcasts,
all the multimedia mix that they insist on having.
listings and directories, all these other places that you got to be, and if you're not there, you don't.
Online reputation management, all that is part of the scheme of things today. And that's why, you know, people get lost in the shuffle today, why they kind of throw in the towel, because this thing has just become such a huge process to manage.
It's an elephant.
Some people, it is. It's a whale.
It's a whale.
Yeah, it's a whale.
How do you eat a whale?
One bite at a time.
You get about 20 guys who come in and say, help me eat this whale because I ain't going to be able to eat it by myself. And that's what we thought. We have a team. We have a team of people that actually do the work. Because trying to do it by yourself, I mean, you and I both used to do a lot of this stuff as one-man bands at one point in time. And the reality is you can do it, but you can't do it efficiently. And you surely can't do it for more than maybe 2 or 3 people.
We're down to about our last minute.
Yeah.
So let's try to...
We'll talk about what's coming up next week. So the next week's show is Google watching you, and we're not going to just talk about Google. We'll probably talk about several of the other guys that are watching you also, including the NSA. We also want to talk about the week after that, which will be humor as a weapon of mass distraction, which will be a lot of fun to do. And then, of course, in the new year, we'll do New Year, New Tech, talking about all the new tech toys and all the really cool stuff that's happening.
And again, we want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank
Via
e-cigarettes, and also we're going to talk about Tub King.
All right.
So until next week, keep working the web to win.